the Sejuani, and then you've still got to try and escape away from this Mordekaiser and this Aatrox while there's a bullet time flying over the top.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to jump into our match of the week. RNG on your blue side, it's FPX on the red side, and it's Betty on the Kaiser, a callback to the 2019 finals. Let's see if he can fill the shoes that Uzi's left behind.
RNG, with the composition that they have drafted, are going to love skirmishes. Silas does so well on those because he's got this so much CC. Pair that along, well, single target CC. And when you pair that alongside a Trundle, again, who does wonderful in these skirmishes, where he can steal away stats from anyone that he goes up against, this is setting up for RNG to try and spread out these team fights in the early game. Try and play towards Longxing in the top lane, but I don't know if they can play around the bottom side of the map. Betty and Ming are in a very heavily losing duo lane, so this now takes the playbook out of the equation. What we set up was trying to play towards dragons. I think RNG in this instance have to play towards top side and towards these Rift Heralds instead.
RNG, by the looks of things, gonna go for a late invade here. The sweep in play from Xiaolongbao will mean that they're able to go on into this jungle. It's going to be a late start onto the camp though. Doombi is here to try and contest. Longxing going to be there to hold him off.
So RNG are trying to see if they can collapse on Gimgoon here. No stun from Longxing.
But I think that this is just a bait from Gingoon. He knows he's not going to be able to get collapsed on. It's all slowing down the start.
It's actually a brilliant move from FPX because Longxing had moved towards the mid to go into a favorable matchup against the Aatrox and to let Xiao Hu go off against Gimgoon in the top lane. Now, because of that, it actually gave the timing for FPX to swap the duo lanes and get the matchup that they really wanted.
They get a great matchup. They also slow down the start from Xiaolongbao. Really, really nice level 1 coming out from the side of FPX. I do want to bring attention to the runes in the bottom lane though. Betty with the Hail of Blades on Kaiser.
So this is something that we've started to see come out a little bit more from a couple of different champions. Corki's another one who started to move over to it. We saw a Hail of Blade Varus the other day. This is just, okay, we want to go for very quick trades and make sure that we're winning out in these short bursts if we are going for these fights. You sacrifice some of the late game that you would get with the likes of Lethal Tempo or something along those lines, or even, you know, the likes of Press the Attack, but at least the Hail of Blades means if there's this quick trading, which we expect from LWX and Crisp, well then they should be able to even them out just a little bit.
Well, we did see that FPX managed to find themselves their favorable lane matchups at the start of this game. And Tian has moved on up towards this top side of the map. Now, typically what we've seen is Xiaolongbao a lot of focus on towards the dragons, but quite often it's only once he's got his top lane ahead. Xiao Hu in trouble here, gets away from the infernal chains there.
You can see why FPX really wanted to get this matchup. The Aatrox does so well at punishing the Silas early because you've got to approach the wave. You are able to get a bunch of these Dark and Blade procs off, and FPX are already moving in to make sure they can spot where Xiaolongbao will be and try and stop this early gank towards the top side.
Tian not going to find any camps on the top side of this jungle though, so we'll just have to recall here. Obviously, can't. I was going to say can't go for a dive just yet, but he might be making this happen.
Xiao Hu is incredibly low, and you can see where Xiaolongbao has moved to. They're going for this.
Xiao Hu has the flash available and a TP from Doombi as well. It's going to be matched with a TP from the side of RNG. And very nicely done to deny the play. Longxing here, stunned under the tower. Gimgoon's in trouble himself. Will be able to get the indestructible off. Keeps him safe for now. Tian very low. Longxing isn't done just yet. This is 2v3, but RNG looking like they want to keep going.
FPX will be forced to back away, but this is a big win for RNG. Not only did you turn around that gank, you've also got Xiaolongbao who's free farming this entire time. Picked himself up both scuttles, now moving into the enemy jungle as well. So RNG's jungler is off to a great start in this matchup.
And Xiao Hu, who started off with a bit of a CS deficit, gets to TP into this mid lane. There's a huge wave for him to collect as well. So very, very nicely done here by RNG. Despite the fact that there's no kills on the board, there's already been so much back and forth between these two teams.
Yeah, Tian is in a dire spot right now. By just clearing the not clearing the whole way through, Xiaolongbao has been able to steal away that Gromp. Now looking to steal away the Wolves. Will be spotted by Tian. Now you have to look, though, who's going to collapse first, because it's going to be RNG who can move here with mid pushed in and bot lane pushed in.
You got to see them moving on up as well, because Tian does not win that 1v1. Doing B looking for Xiaolong Bao, though, and he's been found out alone. Nice dodge on the Zenith Blade. Still gets stunned, though, and that's first blood. Going the way of Doing B. Now the rest of the team's here as they get straight onto LWX. Ming surviving. Blast Cone out to safety, but he's finished off. Doing B with a double, and he's looking for more as well. No way out for Xiaohu, and Tian finishes him off.
Nobody from RNG moved. They had both lanes pushed in. In theory, it should be Xiaohu and Betty with Ming who can move over to help that. They're so late on the rotation that FPX beat them to the punch and they pick up the win.
And man, if there's one player on the side of FPX that you don't want to have the early lead, it's Doing B. He's on an Aatrox. He's going to be an absolute monster once he's recalled and spent some of that gold. This only gets worse to deal with.
I don't think you want FPX to have a lead whatsoever, to be honest. You're looking at that bottom lane, 3 assists going over to LWX. How do you try and contest this dragon now when the bot lane from FPX has got all those assists? Now, looking at the CS, definitely Betty and Ming favored, but at least some of that gold has gone back into the pockets of this Misfortune.
Yeah, and also, not to mention, Misfortune just incredibly strong during the early game, that especially once you hit level 6, bullet time just at a base level, such a hugely impactful ultimate. Xiaohu, though, has found Tian up in the top side of the map, forces the flash out from the Sejuani.
Now we should actually see RNG capable of picking up this dragon. Xiaolong Bao is already pinging, going to move over with Tian spotted. They know they're safe to go for this, so there's going to be no interruptions from RNG. And you can see, again, this is where RNG like it, to be getting this first dragon over for themselves.
Yeah, Trundle going to be pretty quick at soloing these objectives out as well, so we'll be able to just finish that one off. Betty and Ming going to move up slightly just to make sure that this is a safe objective to take.
So many musical chairs, or musical lanes in this game, it's unreal. I've seen Xiaohu move top to move bot, Doinby to move left to move right. Everyone in these solo lanes is trying to move into the matchup that they want.
So you have Xiaohu pulled into the death realm here. He's still not level 6. He might end up going down. Kingslayer keeps him alive. It's a pretty big ultimate burn from Kim Goon.
This is the problem with Xiaohu moving around so much and falling in that earlier skirmish down on the bottom side. Meant that he hadn't hit the level 6. Still should be relatively safe, though. The biggest issue that I'm seeing, though, is the CS numbers for this Sylas. Xiaohu is very far behind, and when we look towards Xiaohu to be one of the big carries for this team, the most damage on RNG, having him behind this early is not going to bode well for them.
Lanxing, though, is very much making up for that CS deficit. When you look at the top lane CS scores right there, 30 in favor of this Renekton, and that is why they put so much prevalence on this as a first pick.
Watch Ming. This is, again, the way RNG start to move. Okay, cool. We've picked up that dragon. Right, we're going to move up towards this Rift Herald. The only difference from what we usually see is that they've actually brought Betty in tow. Normally, it's just Ming who starts to roam, but RNG realize we need to be firing on all cylinders if we hope to beat FPX.
They know that FPX will not let this go without a fight. Tian is going to be here, pulled in immediately. Ultimates galore, and it's straight across the entire team. Ming, the first one to go down, but Lanxing is huge in the fight. Will be dropped eventually as Crisp keeps himself alive for now. LWX is free firing. Doing B with a double kill as well. Xiaolong Bao nowhere to go. It's a triple for Doing B.
That is a huge team fight victory for FPX and just shows the difference between Misfortune versus the Kai'Sa. Misfortune can have these massive ultimates in team fights, which is why we're seeing her so prevalent in the current meta. Doesn't need that many items to be useful, whereas Kai'Sa needs so much more time to scale up. Betty's only got the auto attacks in this team fight, and that's not going to do anywhere near as much as this bullet time. Watch Betty on the backside, forced to run the heck out of here while the bullet time is ripping through everyone on RNG. Even in a 4v5 fight, FPX handily pick up the win.
I mean, Betty's still level 5. You can see it there on the replay. There's nothing, nothing he can do in that situation.
Even if you've got the killer instinct available, there's nothing you can do here. This is why we don't see Kai'Sa come out very often, and often why we see Varus taken in tow, because you still got that ultimate that can do work in these early fights that Kai'Sa just doesn't offer.
And already things starting to look real good for FPX here in this series. 2,000 gold lead for them as Doombi and Tian moving up towards the top side. 5-0-2 on Doombi already.
This guy is a monster and has that early executioners picked up as well. So now this healing that Long Shin is looking to get off of Cole the Meek and that Blade of the Rune King is going to be a lot less.
He got that Black Cleaver at 9 minutes when he'd already bought an executioners to
soon.
slow down the first item. That is an absurd gold lead.
Now we need to see RNG though take a step back. They're battered, they're bruised, they need to go into the corner, get a bit of water, take out the gum shield, have a breather. Because FPX have been giving them an absolute slobber knocker that they were not prepared for, and looks like Tian is not quite done yet.
Tian moving up towards this top side, but I think deciding that this is maybe not the play to go for. Xiaohu will obviously have a bunch of healing to work with. Even with an Executioners, the Kingslayer can still be deceptively strong at keeping you alive in a tower dive type situation. Now we kind of have a moment of reprieve here. And let's remember that way back when in 2019, when it was FPX that took the finals, it was actually RNG that started the day off strong. It was RNG who got the first win on the board. So as of right now, FPX are the ones that are looking like the favorite.
Rift Herald put down in that top side of the map. Again, we're seeing Crisp roam up here to make sure that this does get the connection. Now, with the changes in 10.5, melee champions do a lot more damage to these structures. So if Doinby can get on with some help here, could potentially take this tower, but just trying to give more gold into the pocket of Doinby. And this makes sense as the identity of FPX. Doinby is 31% of the team's damage. He's the highest kill participation on the team and the second highest damage for a mid laner in the entire league. So when you're in this situation where you've got 5 kills on this Aatrox, why not just say, here Doinby, take the game, we're gonna give it to you, we're all on your back, just carry us across the finish line.
Yeah, and when you talk about carries, you have to then talk about Betty on the other side of things. Going for this Kai'Sa pick is something that isn't too standard as of right now. It's not something we see a lot on 10.5 so far. But he went for it, and it's kind of a signature pick of this matchup between RNG and FPX. So far, though, obviously he's not been able to have much of an impact because he's playing Kai'Sa at low level. You can see the cull in his inventory. You can see he's still got to stack up his mana moon. And so it's still a long time until anything from RNG is going to come online.
And this is the problem that we see. And actually, we were having a discussion before we came in today where we don't see more of the crit or the late game carries coming in to Summoner's Rift at the moment. It's problems like this. They need time to scale, especially if you're more auto-attack based with the likes of Betty, and especially on the Kai'Sa where you want to start stacking up these evolutions. You need those 2 to 2.5 items before you really come online. But by the time you get to that point, this game has pretty much already been decided. We're 13 minutes in, there's a 4k gold lead for FPX, and they're still waiting to crack open all these turrets that are still sitting on the map. And
you can see the stylistic difference between FPX and every other team in the league here when you see Doinby moving down towards the bottom side to finish that turret off, gets himself the first tower gold, gets himself so much extra gold in his inventory.
And don't forget, it's extra gold. Because on 10.5, he saw the changes from 120 gold for turret plate to 160 gold. So now this lead that is already looking monumental for FPX is only getting worse and worse.
And pretty much every other team in the league, they'd give that to the AD carry. Usually, you'd see the Misfortune down there finishing off the tower. Not FPX, though. They want that for Doinby.
Yeah, and look, it's well-deserved. The guy has been absolutely masterful in these team fights. And this is why we love Doinby. He's got the craziest champion pools. He can play Azir, he can play Kassadin, he can play Kled, Pantheon, you name it, this guy has probably played a game of it. I counted last year how much he had, and I think pretty much every single mid laner you could possibly imagine, including Skarner, had been played by this guy. It doesn't matter if it's a mid lane champion, Doinby's going to play it.
I mean, doesn't that just sound exactly like one of the older, best mid laners in the world? FLICKR, that was what he was known for, that he could play any champion, win any matchup, and it feels like Doinby, very similar style coming out from him. Does have the Black Cleaver, now moving on with his Caulfield's Warhammer in his inventory here. Looks like Tian wants to make a play on the top side.
LWX is here, Crisp is in behind them, and now Xiaohu is in a little bit of a precarious situation. Ming is trying to roam across, but FPX take a calculated step back and say, we don't want to go in overly aggressive here. We're still looking to collapse on this mid lane turret.
And that's what really separates FPX as well, is that it's not just aggression. It's not just sheer chaos. It's controlled chaos. It's chaos that they are sowing, and they always know what the next step is. They know not to overextend.
And this is where the next step is to start having Gimgoon and Doinby play out towards these side lanes. Double teleport on both of your solo laners. They've got long lanes now that they can play with. A solid lead that we've been talking about for Doinby. So shove out those waves, force RNG to collect them underneath the turret, and you can then have either Gimgoon or Doinby start to roam over. In particular, Gimgoon can roam towards this mid lane, take someone out of the fight, and force this 2vx amount underneath the mid lane turret.
I want to take a moment here to talk about Langxing as a player, because at the start of this season, Langxing felt like a little bit of a weakling for RNG. He felt like one of these players that wasn't really being able to have too much of an impact in their team, in their environment. But more recently, he's really stepped up. And when you take a look at the CS numbers in this game, very much still the case. They got him this Renekton, this early game power pick, and he is farming up a Storm. He's going to get so strong as we get towards these mid-game skirmishes. But it's Xiao who's been caught out in a skirmish right here, and he knows he can't fight. He's not even going to try, just dashes under the tower.
So now FPX know they've got the man advantage. You force Xiao back. He needs about 30 seconds before he can get onto the map. So what do FPX want to do at that time? Rift Herald is spawning in just a few moments, and that seems to be the port of call here. We'll still give them the opportunity to back and make it down towards this dragon in just over a minute as well.
Just look at the gold right now. We're at a 5,000 gold lead. There's 16 minutes into the game. That is just insane. And against RNG, no less. It's not like this is a bottom-of-the-table team. This is FPX just dominating in the early game. But it's impressive that RNG have managed to slow things down a little bit here. They're not going to contest things like the Herald because they know that there's just no way right now. They need to come back into things later on. I say that, they're going to make a play down towards the bottom side. Gimgoon getting dived right now. Will pull Langxing into the Death Realm. That's going to be just about it for now. In the meantime, we see FPX dropping the Herald in the mid lane. There's a turret, a pillar, sorry. And Langxing will get the kill. Now, actually, it was a Herald in the top lane. They're pushing manually in the mid lane. FPX, they're just going to take the entire map.
This is an awful call from RNG. They commit so many members to the bottom side, and Gimgoon survives for so long that they're trading turrets all over the place. Not only with this Rift Herald get the tier 2, gets a charge onto the inhibitor turret, they've cracked open the mid. Look, Doinby might be caught out though. World Ender's popped. No, he's out. He should be okay.
That's going to be a depth charge. Flashes over the wall though. He is gone. He's out of there. Tian in the meantime also going to get onto the dragon. The inhibitor turret actually died to the minions. FPX, off of a dive from RNG, get everything across the entire map.
I don't know what RNG were thinking. This is like the Mordekaiser special, is delaying and letting your team do work elsewhere. Pull someone into the Death Realm. You're underneath the tower so nobody's able to tank it up. And the FPX have run of the map. I don't know what RNG are thinking.
And there we go, Doinby now finishes off that death stance as well. At 18 minutes, he's got 2 tier 3s as well as his boots, and the Executioner's calling. I mean, you couldn't be happier with a scoreline when you're doing that, and especially in such an important series. Having this head-to-head moving towards the end of the season, this could be a tiebreaker later on. Well, perhaps not if RNG keep playing like this.
Well, this is, especially for FPX, a must-win. Because when we look at the teams that are top of the table, they've already lost to E-Star. They've already lost to Invictus Gaming. So now if they'd put up, or if RNG had been able to come back and take this series as well, well, suddenly FPX are struggling against a lot of the teams we expect to be towards the top of the table.
FPX, though, they're kind of slowing the pace somewhat. Because when you consider the play that they've just made, right, it's a reactive play. It wasn't actually FPX putting their foot down there. That was RNG making a play and FPX going, oh, you're going to commit everyone bot? Then we'll just make a bunch of plays on the top side of the map. They're not actually forcing the issue, though, despite this massive gold lead.
Well, they're doing what they can at the moment. Don't forget, we're only 19 minutes into the game. So picking up that second Rift Herald was the acceleration play that they wanted. You've now got an open inhibitor on the bottom, or on the top side of the map that they can look to play around. You've got Aatrox again down in this bottom lane to put further pressure on RNG just as the Baron starts to come up. So FPX are playing this in the exact style that you expect to be played with this composition at the moment.
The one danger, though, of playing a slower game here from FPX is that you do have the Kai'Sa on the side of RNG. Bear in mind, the Rage Blade has been finished. The Mana Moon will be getting close to finishing stacking as well. Once you get towards that third item, that's when Kai'Sa will really come online.
I think you need to nearly go 3.5, 4 items just because of this game specifically. You've got the Misfortune on the opposite side, who's going to be kicking your butt when it gets to those 2 items. Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge is when the Misfortune is the strongest in the game. So if you are only matching her items at this point, well, then you're still behind. So right now, Betty needs to hit that 4 items, where LWX has got the Infinity Edge, Essence Reaper, and probably a Rapid Fire completed, but at least then when that 4th finished item comes in for the Kai'Sa, she's got all of her evolutions, she can start to take over and see the killer instincts that we saw in the summer finals of 2019.
One of my big questions coming on into this series was going to be whether or not we saw the RNG that we're so used to from the finals, this legendary historic team, or whether we saw the RNG that lost 2-0 to Vici Gaming just a couple of days ago. So far, it's feeling a little bit more like the latter, and that's a disappointing prospect, especially when we're looking at a matchup like this. It's such a historic matchup, and it was the matchup that ended the year here for the LPL.
And when we look towards the Vici Gaming series, game 1, okay, it was a little bit of draft. RNG couldn't do very much when it came to team fights. But game number 2, we saw this same strange decision-making coming out. Hiding in a bush in mid lane so then Qiyana gets a 5-man ultimate is not the way you're supposed to approach a game with a Qiyana in it. So we still look at this game now.
Yeah.
They go for this play towards the bottom side, where Mordekaiser can delay for ages. It's not respecting what these champions are renowned for and being punished by the enemy team for it. So RNG, I think at this stage, have to start looking at how do we actually respect what these champions are capable of, instead of making a play and not considering what the enemy has locked in.
It almost feels like making a play because you feel like you need to make a play, as opposed to figuring out what the smart thing to do in this situation is. And I mean, if you're going to do that against FPX, if any team is going to punish you for it, it's this squad right here. And now FPX, complete control of the game, complete control of the map. Dragon going to be spawning in 35 seconds, and I'd expect that this entire squad starts to roam down towards that side of the map.
They have Doinby, I thought for a moment, pushing up towards that top side, because I'd love to see this Aatrox putting pressure on the inhibitor towards the top side. You can then take the Dragon on the bottom side and just flip the switch. Have the Aatrox play bot, but here we go, Longshin.
Longshin is going to be okay, though. Stays at arm's reach, and all they get from this blast cone play is a couple of crooks.
So going back to my point, if you've got an exposed inhibitor in the top lane, Doinby, with the advantages that he should be able to get that inhibitor if he's left in a 1v1. Since that's not going to be the case, and they're just going to go for this Dragon, it gives RNG the opportunity now, with the attention of FPX drawn to the bottom side of the map, to move in, get vision control, and get this top lane turret for themselves. So trading the Dragon, which, yes, will put FPX at sole point, but for some much-needed gold into the RNG lineup. Because as you've said, Munchables, we're still waiting on that Kai'Sa to come online. So the more gold that RNG can try and gather as quickly as possible, the better situation it'll be for them.
Well, it was weird to see, actually, that Crisp, during that play, while his team is doing Dragon, nobody was on the top side of the map. Crisp just walked into the Baron pit to get vision control himself. He was dropping some wards, trying to clear some for himself. That's sheer confidence right there. That's knowing that there's realistically nothing that RNG can do to punish you.
There's a small line between confidence and stupidity, but he managed to toe that very well.
History is written by the victors, and he got away with it, therefore it was a good play, all right?
If he'd been caught out in that situation, which could most certainly be the case, because as we said, RNG want to get vision control, they're playing towards that tower on the top side, that could have been the go button for RNG to turn towards the Baron. And their Baron taking is incredibly quick. With the Blade of the Rune King on Longshin, with the passive damage coming through from Betty, they can shred through this objective if given the opportunity. So FPX needs to be very careful about these wayward roams by themselves, because if RNG can catch them out, this could give the opportunity to RNG to come back in this game.
The gold lead has been diminished a little bit. It was getting on towards 5,000 earlier on in the game, now closer to 4. As Betty continues to scale on up. And we have to mention as well, Silas does scale very well towards the later stages of the game, depending a little bit on which ultimate you're going to find for yourself. But Certainly has some pretty decent scalings. Not really his biggest strength as a champion, but we'll have to see what the play for RNG will be, though, if they can find a way back into this game. Because, sure, you've stalled for now, but what's the next step?
At the moment, they're pretty happy with the way things are going. You've got Longxing in the bottom lane going up against Gimgoon, which is his perfect opponent. He's 2 levels above this Mordekaiser. The Blade of the Rune King and the Black Cleaver will help him shred through the Mordekaiser as well. So the Renekton Longxing is perfect to go into this bottom side. Doinby, though, is trying to stay with the team because he's the big carry. Instead of utilizing the plays on the bottom side of the map where maybe he can put some pressure on towards a tier 2, they're calling, we want this Aatrox there at the start of the fight, because if we can burst out the likes of Xiaohu or Betty, well then we win the team fight anyway. So we want Aatrox with us at all points in time.
Well, it's 2 minutes now until that extra Ocean Drake will spawn. And if FPX can get it for themselves, that would be the Ocean Soul. And I think with an Aatrox that's this strong, that's already got a Sterix, already got a Death Stance, if he can get an Ocean Soul as well, I'm not sure that you ever get to kill him again.
I'd be very surprised if FPX get this dragon, at least easily. Because I feel with Longxing pushing in this bottom lane, forcing Mordekaiser back, you can just quickly 2-man this and then still keep control around Baron. FPX are going to be looking to juggle the control between the dragon, possibly gifting over a second dragon to RNG, because in the long run, it doesn't really make a difference, because if you get full control around this Baron, well then you can open yourself up to go for picks with Tien, with Doinby, and try and utilize the advantages that you've gotten from these early dragon pickups.
I want to very quickly mention that Betty, we talked about it earlier, he's hit his 3-item spike. He's got the Nash's Tooth. His Muramana is now stacked up as well. Betty is going to start to hit hard. He's getting to the point where Kai'Sa becomes an actual champion, not just a large minion.
And this is an issue, because we have seen FPX struggle now to force any objectives. And I think the biggest reason we're seeing this is because they have Doinby with them at all points in time. Doinby needs to go up against Longxing because of the discrepancy in levels between the Renekton and Gimgoon's Mordekaiser. Doinby is still with this team though, and that means they can't push the advantages they've gotten early, giving more time to RNG to scale up, get more items in their back pocket, and you can already see the stopwatch there as well for Betty. This big team fight that's going to be coming up, they've got extra resources that RNG can use to delay the fight, give Betty another opportunity to come back in, and looks like moving up towards that GA as well, because Betty is going to need it most certainly in these coming team fights, and giving the opportunity for RNG to have a reset button could mean everything.
Well, you said FPX wouldn't put too much priority on this dragon, but it looks like they're going to be trying to fight for this objective after all. All 5 members going to be here. We could have a fight on our hands.
While they're battling over this though, RNG could push the mid lane. This is why FPX are starting it instantly. They want to tear through it.
Here we go. 5v5 it is. Xiaolong Bao jumps straight onto the pit. Doing B's in the backline, but Killer Instinct from Betty gets straight onto Tian. The Ocean Soul was taken by FPX. Bullet time does nothing. That's going to be 1 kill going the way of the Silas. Xiaohu trying to do work, but Doing B is doing everything right now. Xiaohu jumps out. It's only 1 kill, but it's a Dragon Soul for FPX.
Gimgoon took Xiaolong Bao out of the engagement. No opportunity for the steal to come in. And with that, the healing is too much from FPX. Even with Betty flying into the back line to assassinate LWX, there was nothing left in the tank for RNG when the regeneration started.
Such strong team fight prowess here from the side of FPX. And I mean, it felt like the health bars just wouldn't go down.
And they couldn't. Once that dragon comes into play, it's such a strong regeneration on the low health carries. Yes, LWX goes down, but Betty, the big consistent damage on this team, is forced out of the pit. And you can see Xiaohu here as well, struggles the second everyone's gone. He's like, guys, I need some help. I've been left on my own. And FPX now with a very commanding lead in this game.
And one of the biggest strengths that RNG has during these team fights is Longxing right now on the Renekton. But when you've got Executioner's callings across the entire squad here for the side of FPX, suddenly that Call to Me doesn't heal him anywhere near as much as he'd like.
FPX have also picked up a lot of other crucial items that just off of that play. You've got GAs now on both LWX and Doinby, so you've got to kill these both twice now. Gimgoon as well is looking pretty happy with the Zhonyas and that Kindle gem to give the extra cooldown that Mordekaiser definitely needs.
Well, FPX get the ult onto Ming here, but the bait from the Baron is not going to work out for them. That's just going to be the Sejuani ult baited out. Nice answer from RNG. It was a teleport, though, from Xiaohu.
Look at the regen, though. Tien took a bit of damage in that fight and already getting up towards that full health again. This is an insane amount of regen, and Longshin is a little bit far from home.
I don't know if you can win this one, Longshin. He's going to do his best in this situation. Conqueror coming out, World Ender pop from Doinby as he gets the knockups, gets the crits onto them with those sweet spots. Xiaolongbao here, though. Good answer from RNG, once again tempering the pressure from FPX.
So, World Ender's down, you've got the Glacial Prison down from Tien as well. RNG are still ready to fight on all fronts. This is why they're now pushing in towards the mid lane, but the Baron has been started by FPX.
Look how fast they burned through that health bar as well. We do have Xiaohu. He's got the Glacial Prison on hijack right now. Xiaolongbao can't get to the Baron, though, and it's taken down by FPX. Now for a team fight. Big ult going down onto Doinby. Still got some health to work with. Popped into GA now. In the meantime, Longshin taken down in the backline. Gimgoon survives with his Zhonyas. Xiaolongbao has to back away. The bullet time. The Glacial Prison's back up, and it's a kill for Gimgoon. RNG left to run to the hills. All three of them back away, but immediately FPX towards the mid lane.
And towards the top as well. Gimgoon is already backed and started that TP. They want to crack open every inhibitor turret and inhibitor in the base of RNG. Oh, actually, they're just going for the end. They decided, hey, look, we're going to be able to push in. Screw towers. We want to win this.
They're looking to finish things off here. They've got the Baron buff, they've got the man advantage, and they might have just got Betty as well. Walks away from the Infernal Chains, keeps himself alive, but one tower down. Xiaohu out of his Zhonyas and out of the game as well. Betty chased down and finished off. No, gets onto Fountain, keeps himself alive, but we can't say the same for the base. FPX 1-0 up. The champions return, and they make their mark. They will not go down without a fight, getting a couple of extra kills, but 1-0 on the scoreboard.